A few times this year we've talked about color mixing, and today we're going to get to do even more of that with this really fun special art supply called watercolor pencils. You'll see there's a little image of a paintbrush here, meaning that these watercolors, or these colored pencils, are water soluble, and we'll get to use them that way today. First, I'm going to write my name on on the back of my paper with a regular pencil, so I know whose artwork is whose. Then on the front, we're going to color different patches of color with different watercolored pencils to experiment with color mixing. You can also do the color just by itself. So let's say I wanted to see what happens when we mix this color and this color. I can layer the colors right next to each other, or I can even overlap them. Maybe I'll do both of those things. So I'll have one spot where they're next to each other, and then down here maybe I'm going to overlap. Our goal by the end is to have our entire paper carefully filled with different color swatches, and as you color, if you color over top, you might even start to see what the colors are going to blend into. So I really want to fill my whole paper, and I want to do relatively neat coloring. It doesn't have to be perfect, but if I just do a really loose scribble, that won't work. I want to actually take my time and fill it in enough so that there's enough pigment for us to see the color. The word pigment is a very specific word, and it's the part of the pencil that gives it its distinctive bright color. So I'm choosing different colors, and I'm either coloring next to, or overlapping, or both. When my whole paper is full of colors, then we'll be closer to be ready for the water. We might also have to wait for our classmates so that almost everyone is ready before we go on to the next step. I don't have my whole paper colored, but I do have this corner here, so I can show you what to do. I've got a paintbrush, and I've also got a cup of water. One of the things I want to do today is make sure I'm using not too much water. I want to use just the right amount, which is just a little bit, because I don't want the colors to be too messy and the paper to get oversaturated. So I'm going to take my brush, dip it in the water, and then wipe on the edge. I'm pulling against the edge so the water drips back into the cup and not on the table. Then I'm going to take the brush and gently go in super tiny circles. I'm not really pressing down very hard at all. I'm just letting the colors mix by swirling. And you can see it's turning my colored pencil into paint. That's what's really cool about watercolor pencils, is they become like watercolor paint. I'm going to do that for each of these colors. You'll notice where the edges touch, it starts to pick up the next color. I do want to wash my brush so that the colors don't blend too much. A little blending is okay. If they blend too much, they might become brown. So we want to be careful and use not too much water. So I'm using a little water, then washing my brush and wiping it off. A little water, blend in circles, wash my brush, wipe it off. It's really cool to get to see the colors become paint, but I want to make sure I can be careful too with my art supplies. I'm excited to see what fun colors you can experiment with today and what you can learn about how different colors mix. Remember, we're taking our time and trying our best, using just a tiny little bit of water, and then washing our brush and wiping it off.